Welcome to Southern Rhone!
Is there a more beautiful wine region than the Rhone Valley in France? Dotted along the banks of the Rhone River is one quaint town after another, connected by sprawling vineyards and stunning landscapes. The vines along this path produce a vast array of Côtes du Rhône wines, from charming whites to fresh rosés and supple reds. But it's the people who make those wines that truly make this region special. They care about the land they cultivate and are working to preserve it for future generations. They're committed to honoring legacy, taking care of the environment, and innovating for the future. And there is nothing more exciting than a Rhone road trip. So welcome to Southern Rhone, and welcome to V is for Vino.
Welcome to Avignon. Avignon is the official capital of Côtes du Rhône wines. Not only does it make a great home base while exploring the region, it also has its own incredible sights and history worth checking out. The most famous, the Palais des Papes, or Papal Palace, which is the largest Gothic palace in the world. Sometime during the 14th century, Pope Clement V fled political unrest in Rome, and he brought the papal residence here to Avignon. Spanning 7 popes, this was the seat of Western Christianity for several decades before the Pope moved back to Rome in 1377. But to really understand Rhone Valley wine, we need to go a bit further back in time, like way back.
Located in the southeast of France, the Rhone Valley was formed from millions of years of volcanoes and tectonic activity. Over time, the valley was squeezed in between the massive Central Mountains and the Alps. All this wonderful history over millions of years made dynamic winemaking soils, ranging from clay, limestone, granite, sand, and big rocks called pudding stones. The valley stretches 125 miles from Vienne to Avignon along the Rhone River, which is the lifeblood of the region. It's been used throughout history for irrigation as well as transport. The Romans planted grapes in this area as early as 400 BC, but it wasn't until the 1300s that things really took off. The popes in Avignon that we spoke about earlier wanted wine produced locally in the region, so they helped cultivate vineyard land here.
This is Pont Saint-Benazet, a bridge made in 1185. While only a portion of it remains intact today, it used to be super important. At the time it was built, it was the only bridge where you could cross the Rhone River within 200 miles. This river is part of what makes the region so visually stunning. Small towns line the banks of the water and the hilltops nearby. Luscious lavender and olive trees grace the fields. Medieval castles and Roman history scattered throughout the region. But we're here for the vineyards and wine, and let me tell you, there is a lot of it.
The Rhone Valley vineyards are the second largest AOC in France. And while the region is split into Northern Rhone and Southern Rhone, and home to about 30 different appellations, for this episode, we're only going to talk about Southern Rhone. 95% of the wine from the region comes from here. About 75% of that is red, followed by 15% rosé and 10% white. The climate in Southern Rhone is Mediterranean, and the summers are warm and dry, which means heat-loving grapes like Grenache, Syrah, Marsanne, Roussanne, and Mourvedre flourish here. The land is mostly flat, which allows the mistral winds that travel through the Rhone Valley to cool down the region. This leads to grapes that can ripen well, but retain freshness and acidity due to the cool nights. But the real star of the region is the Rhone River, which helps vines by regulating temperature, reflecting sunlight onto the grapes, and bringing amazing soils to the area.
While the Rhone Valley may make a ton of wine, don't be fooled. It's incredibly focused on the quality of the wine and taking care of the land. It's one of the oldest wine regions in France. And since the 1980s and 90s, when the wine region really found its popularity, winemakers have worked hard to both preserve the vineyards and wines for future generations. As you're gonna see, biodiversity is a huge part of most winemakers' missions here. They do things like employ sheep in the vineyards instead of lawnmowers, encourage insects and animals to help bolster the ecosystem, pursue environmental certifications, reduce and recycle water, and a slew of other measures. All in all, this helps manage the land in a way that both increases the quality of the vines while also preserving them for future use. To help me navigate all this wine, I needed someone who knew the area. For that, I contacted my friend Sarkis. Sarkis is your quintessential Frenchman. He grew up here in the Rhone Valley. He's cultured, he dresses great, and he's into classic cars. So naturally, I had him pick me up. Who it is, the best dressed man in France. He chose his 1957 Morris Garages MGA Roadster, a classic car to explore a classic region. Carré du Palais, we met a fellow American and sommelier, Kelly McAuliffe. Kelly has been working as a sommelier in this part of France for over 20 years, and may be the most well-versed American on the planet when it comes to Rhone wines. The Frenchman who moved to America, and I have the American who moved to France.
So cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers, guys. You mentioned to me you were a male model at one point.
Once upon a time. I was a lot thinner back then. Yeah, I was modeling around the world and ran into a beautiful French woman, and as they say to people, she harpooned me and I was too big to throw back, you know, and I didn't want to be the dumb American being invited to dinner all the time. So I got Wine Spectator, I got Hugh Johnson's Atlas. It became a passion. Yeah.
Speaking of passion, man, do the French know how to make a cheese board. 18-month Comté, a local ash rind goat cheese, a soft cow cheese, plus ham infused with truffles, aged chorizo, and trout crudo. We paired it all with Domaine de la Valériane Côtes du Rhône Rosé.
Charles de Gaulle, he said, how do you run a country when you have more cheeses than you have days of the year?
Starting with the rosé, why with the charcuterie?
We're at the end of summer right now. They go great with charcuterie. They don't offend anything. This has got really nice acidity in this wine. So acidity is going to break through the cheese. It's going to work very well with the charcuterie and probably work excellent with the salmon as well.
And what I do like about the Côtes du Rhône rosés is they have sometimes a little more weight than some of the lighter Provence style. So I think a little better with food, in my opinion. Côtes du Rhône rosés are versatile pairing wines. Because this wine was a riper, fuller style with less citrus and more red fruit, it went great with our board. It had the weight to match the variety of items, the acid to cut through the fatty trout and cow cheese, pair with the salty meats and comté, and match the acidic goat cheese. Sarkis was the one who convinced me to come here. He's like, there's so much to explore. What gets you excited about this region?
So much, you know, the government body, the INAO, they came in and they really did their due duty, and they broke it down and they go by the quality of the soil. In all honesty, the Rhone, bang for your buck, it's almost unbeatable in France.
Really?
It's just a steal. It's a joke, yeah.
Yeah,
true pleasure wines.
I don't talk price on the show typically, but I mean, I will say, anybody watching at home, like, you can afford every single wine we're gonna taste on this trip.
Yep.
And I can't say that about everywhere I go, right? You know, obviously there are crews that you can get into, but you can stay in the Côtes du Rhône and the village level and the name village level and just have fun. The next course was a lot of fun. A base of corn, shrimp, and onions, topped with a mandarin mousse and crispy shrimp tempura. And the wine? Domaine du Bois de Saint-Jean Côtes du Rhône Blanc, which in this case is a Viognier-based wine. This wine is sick.
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Why in the US we don't highlight the white Côtes du Rhône? Because everyone knows about red, how to pair it with food, but I think, to be fair, the white is one of the highlights of the region.
It's aromatic, it's peachy, it can be tropical.
Down here in the south, we've got a ton of some. So you end up with these kind of like high sugar grapes, and high sugar grapes are going to give you high alcohol. So when it comes to white wine, that's kind of unfriendly. So you have to be really smart. But the guys that make white down here that are really happy about making their whites, they're good.
They're good.
They're good.
Well, there's a whole bunch of grapes down here that they can use in their blend.
But each one does something different to the batch.
You know what makes me think about is, like, you know, in the perfumery industry, you have the nez, right? It's gonna blend everything, all the ingredients to create something for the nice perfume.
Yeah.
It's a science.
The fruity floral notes played so great with the mandarin and sweet corn flavors, matched the weight of the dish, and the acid cut through the creaminess of the mousse. Our last dish was a vegan pumpkin risotto with roasted vegetables and seeds, topped with a pea sprout and basil pesto,
and it looked as good as it tasted. We paired it with a biodynamic Côtes du Rhône, Mas de Libon's Hayam GSM blend.
The Rhone cut their teeth on red. That's what they're known for. That's most of the wine production.
So you can see the color already. This is going to be fun, and as we say in French, digest. You smell the wine, you can pick up all of those really fun cherry, red fruit flavors that are coming, for me, coming through big time. And yet it's got a lightness of being. There's this freshness and like crazy drinkability. So for those vegetarians, those vegans, those people like that, you've got a wine here that goes beautiful with pretty much a 100% vegetarian dish.
Like I said, there used to be maybe a school of thought that these were always rich, really heavy, really tannic wines. I wouldn't describe this as that at all. This is medium plus body. There's great acidity to it. This is very, very pairable.
Floral, juicy, and herbal, this fresh GSM blend matched the weight of our dish while still retaining enough acid to contrast the richer risotto. And the herbal floral flavors in the wine loved the green herbal pesto while also contrasting the smoky roast veggies. In general, roasty and grilled flavors are such a great match with Côtes du Rhône reds.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining me for lunch.
It is my pleasure. It's an honor to be able to help someone like yourself promote the Rhone. People need to drink more wine.
I'm doing my best. All right, I'm gonna get them all on board, I promise.
Lunch was great, but if all this talk of Côtes du Rhône and villages and crews is making your head spin, don't worry, we're gonna chat about it right now.
You talk about places where you can go and do a road trip when you come to wine country. This may be one of the top ones because you can see the geology that's in the wine in the landscape. Like you can see the slopes and you can see these giant, mountains, and you can see the rocks and the layers and different colors and slate and graphite. You can see it physically. So it's not like you're just going to the vineyard and they're saying, look at this soil. It's like, oh, you can see millions of years of geology in the landscape as you drive through it. And I think that's something that's really unique to this region. What is Côtes du Rhône? I'm sure you've seen the label before when you've been out shopping for wine. Côtes du Rhône is a place, a wine, and an AOC. Let me explain.
An AOC, or Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée, is a government designation similar to AVAs in America or DOCs in Italy. It regulates where wine can come from and how it can be made. So a Côtes du Rhône refers to the wine made from specifications defined by the government and tradition, as well as the region itself. There are 4 main AOC categories in the Rhône Valley: Côtes du Rhône, Côtes du Rhône Village, Côtes du Rhône named villages, and Rhône Valley Cru. The higher you go in the pyramid, the more specific area you have to get your grapes from, and the more strict your specifications are. Côtes du Rhône wines can come from the largest area, while Côtes du Rhône Village wines must come from one of 95 different villages.
The third level is Côtes du Rhône named villages, and this is where things get really exciting. Behind me is a village called Séguret. If you buy a bottle of wine from the vineyards surrounding this village, the label would say Séguret, and below it, Côtes du Rhône Village. There are 22 of these named villages spread across the Rhône Valley, and these wines tend to be a bit more complex and more age-worthy than their Côtes du Rhône counterparts. They have their own distinct soils, history, climate, and therefore distinct terroir worthy of their own designation within the Côtes du Rhône appellation.
The top level are the 17 Rhône Valley Cru, and some of the names you may know, like Gigondas, Tavel, or Lirac. These wines won't say Côtes du Rhône on them. They'll just have the Cru name listed, and it's up to you to know that these wines come from the Rhône. Some of the more recent Cru started out as Côtes du Rhône named villages and then applied to have their specific Cru appellation, such as Restaud and Queyranne.
And just like that, I'm in another village. This is Sablé, another beautiful Côtes du Rhône named village full of great wines to explore. You won't find any Cru wines here, but here's the deal. While the Cru wines are great and definitely worth trying, they represent only about 20% of the wine produced in the Rhône. Some of the most exciting and value-driven wines are coming from the other three categories. And so that's where we're going to spend our time this episode, exploring the Côtes du Rhône Village, and Côtes du Rhône named village wines. Because the reality is that all the AOCs here have great quality wines within them. The AOC governing body does a great job of regulating quality at all levels for the consumer, from setting the rules of vineyard management, yield levels, vinification, aging, and even the labeling. If it's labeled Côtes du Rhône, you know exactly what is and isn't going into your wine and how it's being made.
Sarkis and I drove to the eastern edge of the southern Rhône Valley to visit our first winery of the trip, Domaine de Montirius. There, we met the Sorel family, who specialize in biodynamic wines and really embody the spirit of Côtes du Rhône.
10 hectares of forests, all oak trees around the vine. So it's a microclimate. And then you have another kind of vibration, another kind of animals who come.
Eric, what was special about this plot?
At the beginning, it's only what you feel. We discover that in the soil and subsoil is the best clay that we can find to produce red wine. To find on Petrus, on Romanée Conti.
The same type of clay. When you first came, you didn't know any of this. You just said,
Yes.
this feels,
Yes.
this feels right in my heart, and you turned out to be right.
You know, the man who taught us the biodynamic is called François Boucher. 25 years ago, when he came here, he said, okay, yeah, we can start biodynamically. And you see your soil, we change color. We change color. Yeah, you see, in 1 year.
In 1 year.
It's true. He was a little bit brown, and now he's dark. Look how he's supple.
It's kind of loose. It's a dark, deep brown.
Yes, and smell.
You know what it smells like? It's potting soil.
Or like in a forest.
Rather than, you mentioned, it used to be kind of almost like a gravel, like this, pale and
Exactly.
lifeless.
Roots of the vine penetrate in the subsoil because it's supple. If it's like that, the roots can...
They can't go deep.
No. And what they receive, what they attract, they have nutriments, they have minerals, they have worms, they have microorganisms.
Sure. It's literally alive.
Christine and Eric shared with me all they do to maintain certified biodynamic vineyards. Magnesium to supplement the vines when they don't get enough naturally, the same way we might take vitamins. Natural fertilizers, encouraging wildlife, raising chickens, and even peacocks, which help attract other birds. They recirculate the water from the cellar through an underground purification process that they then use in their home. Bees, so many bees, are encouraged to help keep the vineyard healthy. After my tour, I met with their daughters, Justine and Manon, to do a little tasting.
So what do you guys both do in the winery? What are your roles?
I'm more with the commercial part. I work in the vineyard.
You know I believe you. Hold up your hands for the camera.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Most of your wines, I think, don't use any oak, right?
No,
Yeah.
no oak.
Oak can be great, but can also be a place to hide flaws. If you have no oak, you're just showing what the grapes gave you in the terroir.
It's a mix of Roussanne, Clairette, and white Grenache.
Do they co-ferment?
Yes, it's an easy wine, a good for aperitif wine, easy drinking. You get the acidity at the end, you get the minerality that comes here at the back. And the idea is really to be on a fresh style. As we don't bring any water, we don't irrigate. The roots, they can really go into the soil, deep, deep down, and they get the freshness from the bottom of the soil.
kind of gravelly, rocky minerality to it, mixed with some fresh citrus.
We are like guardians of the places, guardians of the vines, and our job is to take care of it, take care of nature. From that, making a wine.
I think a lot of winemakers in this region, they don't think, okay, I'm gonna make a big winery and then in 20 years I'll sell it and I'll retire. They think, I'm going to make a big winery that I can pass down to my children, not just the brand and the business, but the land. Look at the color on the red. Côtes du Rhône wines often have this perception of big, tannic, weighty wines. I mean, this has the color of I dare say, a Pinot. It's cherry, it's semi-transparent.
60% of Grenache. Grenache, the best place is here. It's Côtes-du-Rhône, south of Côtes-du-Rhône. In the planet, yes. We think that the key thing with Grenache is to harvest at the right maturity. We were mentioning before, there is no oak, no barrels, so it helps also to get this freshness. A wine without oak is like a beautiful woman without makeup.
And I noticed, by the way, on the back of this label, you're saying no oak.
No oak.
You're saying it's Grenache Syrah. You're saying it's biodynamic, zero irrigation.
Yep.
What is the last one? Zero entrée d'origine animale.
It means that we don't use anything coming from animals.
But I mean, the amount of information on the label is stunning when you look at some other wine labels in the world. Red blend from France. You know, and so like this is really amazing. It seems like there's transparency as to what we're doing in the vineyard.
I think in Côtes-du-Rhône appellation we have nothing to hide, as you're saying. So we just want people to understand what is in the bottle.
Whenever I come back here, there's something unique happening. It's like when I drive around, I feel like I read a Marcel Pagnol novel. When I look around, I feel like it's a mix between Chagall, Renoir. I mean, look at the landscape. And I think there's a real awareness here for people like to respect nature. When people come to Côtes-du-Rhône, drink this wine, look around, meet the people on this earth, they'll have a different experience.
Cheers, guys. The label of biodynamic can sometimes carry a voodoo-like stigma. But if you talk to the Sorrell family, they would tell you that to them, it's just a way of implementing natural techniques that work for their vineyard. Christine herself would tell you that what's right for Monterius may not be right for the winery in Washington. But she's proud that she shared their 25 years of experience with their neighbors and helped them mitigate problems with natural solutions as well. It's important to them. It's their passion. And the wine? Well, the proof is in the pudding.
Hey everybody, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I wanted to talk to you briefly about Vino VIP, which is our members only club. You see, we're a small team and we're completely independently produced, which means we can only keep making episodes with your support. So if the show has helped you or helped you pass a wine exam, or if you're just enjoying it, please consider supporting the small business that provided it and join Vino VIP, which is full of a ton of benefits anyway. You get full episodes ad-free, and you also get early access to all our episodes, including our YouTube videos. Plus, you get members-only videos like behind the scenes and commentaries and full-length interviews in our members section on our website. Once a quarter, we do a Zoom session where we get to hang out and taste together and talk. We do raffles once a month for our members, and we do a big yearly raffle. Plus, if you're a gold or platinum member, you get your name in the credits of an episode, and all our members get access to our members-only Facebook group, which is a great community. Membership starts at just $5 a month, which is less than the price of a Starbucks coffee. Everybody thinks somebody else will step up and support, and their support won't matter, but I promise you it does. So please consider joining if you have the means, and thank you so much to our existing Vino VIP members. Now, back to the episode. You could literally spend one day per village doing your little road trip, having a picnic, going to the little town and the little restaurant that's in each village, and do a whole vacation just like that. The way that these villages were constructed so long ago, and then they just adapted them for modern life, not the reverse. They left as a place that was meant to not have cars, and the cars just have to adapt. That's why the cars are so small here. Southern Rhone is known for its blending of different grape varieties. Blending allows winemakers to make dynamic and complex wines each and every vintage. There are 23 different grape varieties produced here for the blends, and 3 main styles of wine: white, rosé, and red. White Rhone blends are some of my favorite white wines in the world. They only account for about 10% of Côtes du Rhône wines, but that number is growing, and winos and somms alike love to seek them out. The main grapes are Grenache Blanc, Viognier, Marsanne, and Roussanne. They usually have beautiful floral and herbal notes with peach, lemon, and honey and beeswax character, and just the right amount of acidity. They range from medium-bodied and fruity and zesty to full-bodied, waxy, and rich, to seriously complex and oak-aged. It all depends on the blend and the winemaker. The best way to describe rosé wines from Southern Rhone is flavorful and fresh. They're plush and fruity while still being a bit spicy and tend to have more color and body than their Provence counterparts. They pair wonderfully with sautéed vegetables like Greek-style mushrooms, goat cheese, or even seafood curries or tomato-based dishes. Finally, no conversation of Rhone wines is complete without talking about the reds. Red wines are what put Côtes du Rhône on the map, and while there are about a dozen red grapes, there are 3 that are by far the most common. GSM. It stands for Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and it's the blend that made this area famous. Grenache adds your acidity, alcohol, red fruits, herbs like thyme and rosemary, and plush character. Syrah, which is native to the Rhone, by the way, adds blue and black fruits, spice, and meatiness. And Mourvèdre adds tannin, backbone, floral notes, and finish. Together, they make a complex, dynamic wine, like a 3-piece band rather than a solo musician. For a long time, Côtes du Rhône reds were known as richer and tannic in style. But the new wave of producers are using more Grenache in their blends, picking earlier and making supple, balanced, fresh styles that are higher in acid and great for drinking immediately and pairing, and are a killer value to boot.
The Rhone Valley is perfect for a road tripping adventure, so I was grateful to have a fun car to do it in. There are 14 different wine trails here and dozens of villages to explore. Some, like Vaison-la-Romaine, are built right into the walls of the rock. It looks like something right out of a fantasy novel. You'll find Roman ruins, medieval churches, and the hum of modern living all within a few blocks. 2,000 years of history married into a single village. Each Tuesday they have a market, so Sarkis and I explored the town and got some ingredients for a picnic lunch to bring to our next winery. But first,
We could also start with the coffee, by the way.
How many should we order?
They always want coffee.
So 4 or 5, I would think.
a word of advice: don't let me loose in a French market.
The best basil in the world.
Best in the world, that's a
No
big
cheese
claim.
and no garlic in.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah?
That's really good. All right, Francisco.
Seriously, don't do it.
Oh, we should get some olives, huh?
Yeah? You have to try this one, it's like it's a specialty.
Oh, that's good. Can you
Yeah.
put a couple of those on top?
Look at the sausage cart.
€10 for 4.
4, yeah.
I mean,
Shall we get a
how do you
few?
pass up a deal like that?
I like pepper. I think we
Oh,
should get a
me
pepper
too.
one. The herbs, dry, so
Or-
sec. Oh, you know what though? I didn't see the duck. Sorry, I like the duck.
Cheese in France is like oxygen. It's everywhere and you can't have a picnic without it.
You think this is the cheese guy?
Do you have any preference or
No,
something?
I love everything.
Oh, okay. Wow, that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
J'ai jamais vu
Oh
ça.
my gosh, it's great.
You want to try
Let's
that?
get some of that.
Bonjour. Wow, so his parents were doing the same job.
Oh,
Second generation jam maker. Very French. Okay. Baguettes and I'm leaving. But what about the nougat?
I love the original.
You want some?
Yeah, give me a small
Kidding
slice.
aside, I always love how seriously France takes food. No matter where you are, every item we eat each and every day had a human being and sometimes an animal behind it. France always reminds me to approach that artistry and sacrifice with the reverence and appreciation it deserves. In the oxymoron that is the north end of Southern Rhone, you'll find Domaine de Cousignac, a little oasis that's been protected by 7 generations of the Pommier family. Raphael Pommier is the current guardian of the land and winemaker who makes what he calls bottled humanity, aka wine, on his certified organic land.
What a cool property. How pretty it is here.
It's very vibrant. It has a lot of nature around. The wine, in fact, itself comes from the terroir, you know. And the terroir is something sometimes we don't understand because it seems very complex, but in fact, it's just life.
Sure.
And when you go somewhere you discover that this life comes from, well, the type of soil, the type of grass, the type of animal. See the bees here? Look at them.
They love it.
Yeah, they're drinking the water because the water comes from the well, you know, and it's nice. You can even pet them. Look at that. Oh, hello, you.
You're a brave man.
No, because they are happy. They're drinking. What we have to understand is that when we have in our fields some life, this life has to be preserved, has to be maintained, and that for that we need to know it.
Sometimes we overcomplicate terroir. What soil is it, and what's the angle of the slope? The true meaning of terroir is representing a place in the best possible way and making the vineyard alive, because it's a living, breathing organism. You have a self-contained ecosystem.
For example, see this grass here?
Yep.
This is wild fennel, wild peppermint.
Oh, did you plant all this?
No, they're growing naturally.
It just happens naturally.
Yes, and by maintaining that naturally between the vines, you create an environment that will give the terroir taste. Because the grapes nearby, they're going to infuse in this aromatic.
We say that from wines near the ocean, right? They get salinity, so why wouldn't it happen with other things, with the plants and the herbs that are in the field?
Exactly, but to get this grass, I need the insect over there to have that in my fields.
As we were in harvest, Raphael took me to the tanks to try some recently fermented juice. And then he told me about something he did to his wines during fermentation that I hadn't seen before.
So, and where you put the speaker?
Over there, and inside the tank,
in the tank,
you have the speakers, and it plays 24 hours a day.
Wow.
For the entire time of the fermentation.
That's right. He stimulates the yeast during fermentation with music.
Natural yeast, I mean, it's alive inside. So by using the music, I stimulate the fermentation and I stimulate the yeast, in fact. The vibrations are creating movements. I'm speaking to you. I vibrate my vocal cords. The air is vibrating, and you transform that into information. So why not?
Why not? Why not the yeast?
Why not the yeast?
I know what you're thinking, you skeptics out there. Does it help make better wine? There's only one way to find out. We prepared some foods from the market and got to tasting.
So I like to blend at least 3 varietals because, like, you know, a chair, it is stable when you have 3 feet. I like this number 3, you know, the number of communication, the Trinity also. I don't know, I'm feeling attracted to this number.
You do get a little bit of the best of all those grapes that you put in here, right? The floral and the apricot, tropical notes from the Viognier. What does the Roussanne bring?
The Roussanne brings some spice, white pepper. You can also find some cinnamon, you know.
A lot of times, some of those spice notes come from oak. And this, any oak on this? No, right?
No.
Exactly. So you get this amazing dynamic spice component simply from the grapes.
I harvest my whites only in the night. No heat, no wind, no oxidation, no sulfites. The Accord Tonic, it's a special cuvée that I created with a quartet of classic music. Grenache is for the shallow. You know, Grenache, it's full-bodied, it's opulent, like the shallow, okay? Yeah. Then Syrah, well, the alto, very low on the notes. It's like the Syrah, very earthy too, very strong tannic. And then the first and second violin, they are very light, easy freshness, fruits, you know, Cinsault and Carignan. Blending those grapes, but on top of that, we were putting inside the tanks the music.
I don't know if it's because we're talking about music. This is a pretty wine. Floral, rose character. I get these beautiful, almost plummy fruits.
Mourvèdre could be a rosé and could be a nice dark red.
Yeah.
And that brings some, what you said, the floral, you know,
some of that
style.
Floral note. And the other thing this gets is an herbal component. You know, Gary, the thyme, rosemary, herbal component that you get is really, really special to this region.
That's really the trademark, what you said. You can also listen to the music. If you use your smartphone, you can have the music we used to play during the fermentation.
So you can listen to the music while you drink the wine.
Exactly. And
I love it.
I mean, it's all from the beginning to the end in music.
Yeah. Process.
You have,
Cheers to that.
Vu de l'extérieur, d'où le monde est voyeur.
This is one of the songs that was played during this wine's fermentation. The wines are incredible, but I'm sure you want to know, does all this holistic agriculture, music playing, and happy-go-lucky bees, does it make a difference? I don't think it's for me to say, because it's worth it for Raphael, and that's all that matters. Similar to music itself, what he does is magic. He makes wine out of thin air, coaxes grapes into existence from nothing, and turns them into an experience and a memory we share at the table. So if preserving his family's land like this is important to him, it's important to me too.
I've had a chance to try some of the Cru wines while we've been here, but like, here's how I know I'm onto something. I went to a restaurant last night with our crew, and we said, hey, I told the waiter, here's a price point. Take any wine you want from the list and just make it from Southern Rhone, because we're here. And he didn't bring me a Cru wine. He brought me a named Côte du Rhône Village wine. So that to me says, oh, we found a little hidden gem here. You want the stuff that tourists aren't getting.
The city of Valence is known as the door to the south. Below that, you're in Southern Rhone, and above it, well, you're in Northern Rhone. And maybe one day I'll continue and explore that region. But for today, this is as far north as we're gonna go. And that's okay, because here is where Chef Baptiste Poineau opened his Michelin-rated restaurant Flaveur. After studying under some of the top chefs in France, he opened his restaurant as a love letter to the region and its gastronomy. Sarkis took a stroll with the chef to learn more.
Écoute, moi je suis cuisinier, né à Valence, et c'est vrai que moi je suis très attaché à ma région et en particulier à ma ville.
Quel genre de message que tu essaies de transmettre dans ta cuisine et ta gastronomie?
Écoute, aujourd'hui c'est vrai que ma cuisine elle s'arrête pas vraiment à ce qui se passe dans l'assiette.
D'accord.
L'idée c'est d'aller voir au-delà et de transmettre des valeurs aussi. On a tendance à sourcer localement nos produits et on a la chance d'avoir un territoire formidable pour ça avec des petits producteurs fantastiques et c'est un engagement au quotidien aujourd'hui d'aller vers eux et de trouver ces produits-là.
Quelle est ta philosophie dans le restaurant?
L'idée, c'est de mettre en avant le talent de chacun aujourd'hui, plutôt que d'avoir un chef qui domine tout et qui décide de tout. Aujourd'hui, on est vraiment dans ces valeurs de partage, d'échange et de mise en avant du talent de chaque personne qui m'entoure.
D'accord. Et tu me disais aussi que tu n'avais pas de problème à avoir un retour de chacun de tes...
Bien sûr, tout le monde a son mot à dire. Je laisse beaucoup d'espace pour ça et le tout étant de pouvoir susciter une émotion à table. Voilà. C'est chercher des équilibres, trouver des textures, mais susciter une émotion à tout prix.
Parfait, parfait. Bon, on arrive au restaurant, on va se mettre à table.
Allez.
While Sarkis was chatting with Chef, I had a very important meeting on the other side of Valence. There are some names in the wine world that are synonymous with the region they represent, titans of their corner of the globe. Guigal is one of those names. This winery was instrumental in changing the perception of Rhone wines globally, and while they're quite famous for some of their high-end bottlings, I got to meet with third-generation winemaker Philippe Guigal at Parc Jouvet to talk about why a winery of their reputation still finds it important to make Côte du Rhône level wines.
So 1946, right after Second World War.
II, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting time to start a winery, but...
It's a bad time.
Yeah.
At the time, it was not very trendy to produce quality wines. And my grandfather was very focused on top qualities, top appellations, Côte-Rôtie, Hermitage, Condrieu. Later on, Côte du Rhône came, of course, very important to us today.
You have, obviously, Cru wines, but you produce these Côte du Rhône wines. Why are these important to you?
We believe that people discovering the Rhône Valley will not go for the most expensive wines. This wine is extremely important to us because we want to make sure that people will drink a simple Côte du Rhône with a high quality. Côte du Rhône is not a snobbish appellation. That is to say, you never talk to your friends saying, oh, yesterday evening I drank a Côte du Rhône. Okay. Well, the difference with the Rhône Valley is that it's a humble appellation, but we completely refuse to produce humble wines. I think the Rhône wines are extremely balanced. You have this richness, you have this opening that is very typical of the Rhône, but you have the balance, you have the acidity, and this is linked to the blends, of course.
That is one of the beautiful things about all the Rhône blends, but white Rhônes in particular say, okay, I like the floral from Viognier, but I don't like the lack of acid, so we can boost the acid with your, you know, your Grenache Blanc or whatever it might be. And so you get these really balanced, complex wines every vintage, because regardless of what grapes ripen better or worse, you can still make a great wine.
Totally right, totally right.
The name Guigal is known very well within not only the Rhone, not only France, but the wine world. You could have sold your brands, had a nice life in Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez is not as nice as here.
Okay, that's a good answer. My question, why is it important to you to keep the winery in the family?
Very simply because I'm not working. I have a passion.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to sell a passion to someone. There's one rule: you never force the new generation to take over.
Sure.
My dad never asked me what kind of job I wanted to do. He showed me by the example what he was doing, and I got extremely interested by, you know, the many hours he was spending in the vineyards, in the cellars, etc. I do the same with my kids. I have boys, they're 12 years old, extremely young. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not going to force them to be winemakers or to work in the vineyards. They already ask a lot of questions. Dad, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? So I'm trying to build the passion.
And it also probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but allows you to dictate how the land and how the terroir is preserved.
Especially when you live, you know, in the Rhone Valley. When you're in a vineyard where you are 100% sure that the same vineyard was worked more than 2,000 years ago by Romans, you feel extremely small.
Yeah.
You feel extremely humble.
We're a blip,
you know?
on the timeline.
Exactly. So you have a role. The role is to carry on. The word tradition is extremely important in the Rhone Valley. We are a traditional vineyard. We are a historical vineyard. And of course, we are passionate people in the Côtes-du-Rhône.
One of the coolest parts about my job is how many people get to go to wine regions and meet the people who helped make the region what it is. So this was an honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
If you're a fan of the show, about now you're probably wondering where the Nerd Lab is. Don't worry, it's not leaving, but it is moving from these travel episodes to our brand new show, Vino First, and I'm super excited about it. While most people pick a wine to pair with their food, if you're anything like me, you start with your wine and then you cook a dish that pairs. So Vino First takes place right here in my kitchen, where I take a wine of the day, talk about it and taste it, and then figure out its structure and flavors and how they would work with food pairings. Get it? Vino First. Then we'll cook a dish from start to finish that pairs with our wine. Dishes that you can do at home. And yes, these episodes will also include everybody's favorite segment, the Nerd Lab. Look for Vino First on our YouTube channel, and it'll be released in the months opposite our travel episodes. Let's get cooking. Sarkis and I met Maxime Chapoutier for dinner. If you haven't heard the name before, know that Chapoutier is kind of a big deal in the wine world. They're an iconic Rhone winery, leading the way in biodynamics for the region and focused on family legacy. All right, now the meal can begin.
Cheers.
Let's talk about this wine.
Belle Rouge.
Belle Rouge.
Belle Rouge, so it means beautiful honey house.
Does have some honeyed character.
It's quite traditional in the Rhone Valley to have this honey taste because of the Roussanne and Marsanne, but we try to balance that with the Grenache Blanc, with the hint of Viognier and Clairette, which bring some freshness to the wine.
Floral, kind of on the nose, honeysuckle, and then beautiful stone fruit.
One of the main characteristics of the family business is that we really are strong believers of the whites in the region. The real gem of the Rhone Valley is whites.
There's your father, still involved in the winery. And then now you have you and your sister, right?
Well, there is my sister and I. She's the sharp one, so she takes care of the commerce. I'm the youngest one. I left when I was younger and I wanted nothing to do with the wine industry. I discovered the world, I discovered it works overseas, and I was like, well, I'm such a stupid boy, you know, like what I have is beautiful and I have such chance, so I decided to come back and they opened their arms to me. You know.
Does the winery pass from your father down to you too?
He's a man with a vision, if I may say. When he will be 60, he will never retire. So he will always be around.
He's never going to retire.
No, I think I will retire before him.
So many winemakers I talk to, they say, listen, if I'm lucky in my lifetime, I get, 40 vintages in my career. And they're like, and that's not enough. So by having it be a family winery, you get the benefit of the 40 previous from your father, and the 40 previous from their grandfather, and now all of a sudden you're building something that's really special. Almost forgot to mention our food. The first course is called The Sea Meeting the Earth. Seared mushrooms and vegetables, clams, and mushroom broth. A hearty dish for sure, which meant you wanted a wine with some fuller weight to stand up to it. Plus, the floral, fresh wine contrasted the earthy flavors and the juicy acidity cut through the salty shellfish.
So is there anything you can tell us besides like the secret techniques of the family or anything that you want to share with us?
The secret of the family is just to be lazy, you know? My father always tell me that the quality comes from the vineyard, and what you will do in the winemaking is just like diminishing this quality.
So you minimize the human touch, basically.
We try, working biodynamically since 30 years now.
Not like a first in that kind of line of business, right? Like
we were among the first one in France. I think it's not only something my family wants to follow, it's a global concern for all the Côte d'Or. Nature is a very well-made tool. You know, like it doesn't need you to work. It's been working for millions of years. So whenever you're doing agriculture, you're breaking, in a way, this balance. It is important to understand all living balance and try to work along it rather than against it.
What's the difference? Yeah, Provence Rosé versus Rhone Rosé.
Having a higher proportion of Grenache in our rosé make it so distinct from Provence. Main difference will be the structure of the wine itself.
For sure. I mean, I got, like you said, cherries, grapefruit, citrus, all the things we love. But as opposed to the finish being crisp and out, it almost has more length.
And more fatness as well. Yeah,
more, yeah, it's richer. It's a richer style of rosé. We paired the rosé with a local trout that was cooked beautifully. It also had some broccoli, more mushrooms, and a mushroom beurre blanc. The trout melts. Try it.
Eating butter.
Yeah, it's like eating butter. I love how the medium-bodied, acidic, fruity rosé stood up to the trout and mushrooms, but again, contrasted the dish and brought something new to the table. This is what put the Rhone on the map.
Yeah.
It's the GSM.
Well, the GSM without the Mourvèdre.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the days, my father would love to put some Mourvèdre on to have bigger, really like structured wine.
I won't tell him you said that.
But now we try to go toward like something more subtle in terms of structure.
Oh, more fresh.
Yeah, and Herbert, we had this chat like 2 weeks ago, and we were tasting the same wine, and he was saying like, this is bad because you don't have any concentration, any density. And I was like, wow, I love this wine because it's actually tighter, very fine, very elegant. The right vision is in between both of us.
I get the nose on this. I get so happy. Fresh red fruit character. We talked about the herbal character that you get. Our last dish was a surprise.
So this is a signature dish. So this is a pigeon, surprisingly. Like I always wanted to try this.
This is pigeon.
Pigeon.
Okay.
Pigeon in French.
And yes, it sounds better when you say it that way.
Pigeon, let's say the French way.
Seared pigeon breast and leg, butternut squash, yellow plum, and pepper sauce. Pigeon, pretty delicious. Who'd have thought? The French, I guess.
I don't think I ever had pigeon in my life.
No, I definitely haven't. Oh, it's good. It's kind of sweet. By the way, this wine, no joke, what is this retail for?
Not enough.
That's the thing. Not enough. Not enough. This is killer. As it opens up, I'm getting like that spicy, meaty character, smoky character from the Syrah, I would guess.
Exactly.
Don't sleep on these wines, people. Hard to beat for the money. The medium-bodied wine matched the weight of the dish, the spice and peppery character in the wine matched the gamey pigeon and pepper sauce, while the acid cut through the seared layer of fatty, salty meat.
All the winemakers you will meet in your travel will tell you that, well, my appellation is the best. This is the same here. The Côte d'Or are the best, but what I'm saying, the difference is that it's true, you know.
But for you, it's actually true.
Cheers, santé.
Cheers.
I've always admired how the French are so proud of their culture, their food, their wine, and their traditions. But I learned on this trip just how much effort they put into making sure that their legacy lives on, both in their families and the land that's given them so much in return. What was the reason that you were like, Vince, you have to come here? What was the thing that was like, you have to come explore this region?
It's very simple. Coming back to the Côte d'Or, I didn't want to highlight one specific personal story, but I wanted to show you the people, their way of living, how they respect the terroir, how they transmit this within the family. And I think, as we say in French, c'est aussi simple que ça.
What does that mean?
It's very simple.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's a long way to say it's very simple.
Every road trip has a destination. Or does it? Have you ever really arrived, or are you just regrouping until your next adventure? People thought they could drive by Southern Rhone because they already knew what it was. A classic region defined by what it did in the past. It had already reached its terminus in their eyes. But the region had more gas in the tank, more tread on its tires. It put on a new coat of paint and reinvented what a Southern Rhone wine was. Went from gas to electric. Let everyone have a look under the hood because it had nothing to hide. Swapped some parts and made sure the region was ready for another 100,000 miles and beyond. And man, would you look at her now. I hope you enjoyed Southern Rhone, and we'll see you next time on V is for Vino. Hey, Vince here. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have a moment, follow us on Instagram. And if you really want to support, please consider joining Vino VIP on visforvino.com. It's our members-only club with a ton of benefits. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.